Hey guys, how's it going? You know, it's the beginning of a new year. I'll be completely bald. Yellow Ackie, Reptiles. Hey guys, how's it going? You know, there's been a lot of reptile bans lately. Unfortunately, it seems like every day there's like 3 new bans that come up, and it's a really concerning time. Now, obviously, like a bunch of other creators, I've been wanting to make a reptile ban video to kind of talk about the more recent stuff. We talked about it somewhat in a past live stream and such like that, but you know, most of the topics have already been covered. So I was thinking, why don't we talk about 5 ways in which you can contribute to helping the fight against these reptile bans? I think this is really important, and these are very impactful. I think each and every one of you can do all 5 of these things and it make a huge impact and really help out the hobby. So let's get to it and start at number 5. Yes, at number 5 we have join a herpetological society. Hope I said that right. But basically, if you have a state society around reptiles or just some sort of organized group, you want to go ahead and look into that. This is a step further from just kind of donating to usark, which I don't want to downplay. It's very important that if you have any extra money you can spare, you donate to them, because there are real only lobbyists out there that's going to go ahead, hire some lawyers, and fight our fight. So we do need to support them. But I think going a step further and joining one of these groups is super important, because number 1, they work usually directly with usark and kind of are their outreach to different states. Speaking of states, they act as your state representative of, you know, herps, of reptiles, basically, a lot of the time. Not all of them are defined by a state, some are defined by cities, some are defined by other means, but a lot of them are organized within a specific region. And it's good for every state to have some sort of organized representation of its reptile keepers, because when a law comes, you want to be ready, you want to be organized, and you want to be prepared to fight against that law and work with usark against fighting against that law. I don't think New Jersey has one. I'm actually looking to starting a herpetological group for New Jersey, so if you're in New Jersey, let me know in a comment and I'll give you all the details. I'm meeting with a few folks over the next couple days prior to when this video comes out, so definitely stay tuned for that. Before continuing on, I'd really appreciate if you guys check the lower left-hand corner or right-hand corner, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell as well for all the latest updates on the channel. It would mean a lot to me. But let's get on to number 4. Now, number 4 is a really straightforward, obvious one, but I feel like it needs to be said, especially since a lot of people don't actually do it. So that's why it's even more important that it's included in this 5 list. It's to set a good example. This means that when all the lawmakers go out there and cite people releasing their animals as a reason an invasive species is being established, you want to set the good example and not be that person that's letting them out into the wild. Now, I have a lot of doubts that a lot of these reptile populations that are established invasively are established because of pet owners just releasing them. I don't think that that's, you know, not something that happens. People do release their pets into the wild, but I don't think it's the main contributor after all I've seen and all the evidence and data I've looked at. Now, obviously, government organizations like Florida Fish and Wildlife are going to do some fear-mongering and kind of hype that up to get their law passed, but I don't find it to be too true. But there is, like I just previously said, people who do that. So don't do that. And furthermore, just not releasing them is not enough. You want to keep them in great, good standard enclosures. Set a high bar for yourself. Don't just hit the minimum. Make your enclosures this really awesome, amazing thing that gets people excited. People who aren't even reptile or herp keepers. Have them come in and check out the setups. Be like, oh, this is really cool. Look at them climbing up there. Have some bioactive setup with plants. People love that stuff, and it really comes off as you taking good care of your reptiles, and that we are deserving of keeping these reptiles, because this is a privilege. This is not a right. We have no right to other lives. So definitely, please go ahead and set a good example. Don't just hit the minimums. Don't just stick reptiles in bare minimum enclosures. Show these lawmakers and naysayers that reptiles can thrive in captivity, and that us as a collective, are responsible keepers that really love our animals. Speak up! Speak up! Unlike a lot of these other points, number 3 is one we can actually use in hindsight. Remember which lawmaker introduced these bills that are being passed, or even if they're not being passed. It will always be a target for them. Remember which lawmakers voted on the bills that go against reptile keeping. Obviously, voting, there's a lot more to it than reptile keeping, but it's important to keep in mind, this is something a lot of us are very passionate about and don't want being taken away. And it seems like a lot of states in the United States of America, which is supposed to be about freedom, are looking to take it away. So when you go to vote, keep that in the back of your mind. This is how we can voice our concerns, and this is how we can enact lawmakers that actually want to pass good laws that work. A lot of these lawmakers are seeing these laws as a good way to add to their resume without actually solving a problem. Don't let them get away with it. Additionally, you can attend workshops. That's another way to speak up. A lot of these laws, specifically the one that just got passed in Florida, they have various meetings on this, which includes public feedback. And a lot of it usually isn't too effective, but it's important that you're there. And it's important that you speak up and raise some valid points based on actual scientific evidence. So even if you're not from that state, if there's a workshop, attend it. It's gonna help. Another great one at number 2 is to volunteer. I know USARK is working on a way that you can apply to be a volunteer or sign up to be one. You can use your expertise from your vocation or other areas of life to contribute and help out the hobby. And that's what we're mainly looking at driving at with USARK volunteers and stuff like that. And not only do you have to volunteer, or should you volunteer at USARK, but you could join local organizations and just anything animal related to promote animal rights and show that there's responsible owners, keepers out there, and educate the public, which we'll touch on in number 1. That is going to be extremely helpful. And I think it's a great way to give back as well, to give back to the community. It's really important that we teach, our children about animals and the respect they deserve and just the diversity of wildlife out there. And, especially with how the earth is kind of progressing with global warming and stuff like that, we really need to educate our future generations on the importance of nature. So volunteer, it's much more than just reptile laws in terms of volunteering. There's a lot more for it, and it really disappoints me that there's a lot of laws trying to be passed to ban educational programs on reptiles, because there's no negative there. It's something we owe nature. It's something we owe animals in general. So it's really disappointing to hear that. But number 2 is a really strong one. You have some free time, try to volunteer somewhere. I'm sure you can find some place. Definitely do it. Finally, number 1, we have normalized reptile keeping. Now, this one, and this is going to sound cheesy, but this one gives me chills. And that's because this is such a powerful way to get people on our side that each and every one of you can do and make a huge impact. Now, all 5 of these, each one of you guys can do and make an impact, but this one is just so easy, so straightforward, and it can really change a lot of minds. My mom does not like reptiles. She does not like snakes especially. But I like to think, as much as she doesn't really understand them, that I've educated her a little bit about reptiles. And even though they're not her thing, I think they're a little bit more normal to her because I keep reptiles. And you could do that same exact thing with your friends, your family, and anybody you kind of socialize around. Obviously, don't drop in on some random folks' conversation and start chatting about hemipenes. That's probably not going to get you too far. But when you have friends over, family, whatever, like I said, maybe your landlord stops by to get rent. Obviously, you only do this if your landlord knows you have reptiles, because this conversation is probably going to go a lot more negatively if they don't. but show off the reptiles you keep. Show off the fantastic enclosures that they're in. This will get it to be more normalized and more accepted, like fish have been. Fish were definitely not a readily accepted pet when they were first introduced kind of as pets. They were definitely exotic, and a little bit kind of still are to an extent. But the more we can make reptile knowledge keeping an everyday thing and well understood, less people will actually fear them, because people fear things they don't understand and they don't know, and that's why it's so easy to pass these laws and say the Tegu is vicious and will attack you and will disturb human daily life, which a lot of papers and media are kind of sensationalizing, is that these reptiles do that, where most often than not they kind of just go and do their own thing. Now that doesn't downplay the invasive species problem, that's actually a real concern, but normalizing reptiles will take care of a lot of these laws and will get more people on our side. So just anybody around you, herp keeper or not, show off your reptiles. I've shown them off to many people who do not keep reptiles around where I live, and they get really excited about it. It's cool to see animals. Everybody loves animals. I mean, especially my generation growing up with actual good, Discovery Channel shows and Animal Planet and stuff like that. You were raised on animals, so people love them. They just don't really keep them and don't really know them too much. I really suggest this method. So that's 5 things I think you could go ahead and do to help the fight against these reptile bans and anti-reptile laws. Let me know what you think, and if you have any additional that you would like to tell me in the comments below. Let's get to a couple announcements before wrapping up. Big shout out to new Patreon Crisp Cuts. I really appreciate your support. I also want to shout out Kat and Rick, Darian J, Smooth Cat, Adam B, David T, Angela L, Hex, Stephanie S, Ellen M, and Toothy Chicken. Almost got me there, guys. Almost did. But if you guys want to support the channel, you can for as little as $1 a month. Check the top right for more information. Tier 3, get you on my forehead. Big shout out to Reptilinks. You can get $5 off your first purchase of Reptilinks by using code Professor Herp at checkout. Link in the description that automatically applies that code. Reptilinks is for tegus, hognose snakes, skinks, and more. Very nutritionally rich. My Tegu Frappuccino's main diet, healthiest since. Check it out, code Professor Herp at checkout. And that's it, guys. Make sure to check out the merch that's to the left of my head, right of your screen. Teespring link in the description below. Otherwise, leave a comment, like, and subscribe. I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.